Now let's go start the engine. So, Hammond believes the necromorphs are some kind of organism which appears to absorb dead human soft tissue and use the hard structure of the human skeleton for support, so it can crawl, run, or jump around, killing more people and making more corpses. The human corpse seems to serve two purposes for this organism, according to Hammond's model. First, much of the soft tissue, including the muscles and organs, are a source for food for this parasite, which it rapidly absorbs and converts into its own muscle. Secondly, the creature appears to use the hard tissue, the bones and teeth of its victim, as its own skeletal support structure, in much the same way a hermit crab adopts the shell of a sea snail. Moreover, the organism seems to base its final shape and appearance on the shape of the skeleton. This is a useful adaptation because it means the organism has a readily available source for food, and because whatever bone structure it would have evolved on its original homeworld does not have to be strong enough or light enough to work to its advantage on any new worlds it invades. By using the support structure of its victim, this parasite can guarantee that its skeleton is adapted to the local environment. I'll continue in a minute. It's very loud in here. Because the necromorph propagation strategy uses soft and hard tissues differently, I can't help but wonder if it really matters all that much that the hard and soft tissue be of the same organism, or that the hard tissue be organic at all. For instance, all of this fleshy stuff may be coating the floors, walls, and ceiling because the organism, having digested its human victims, is now attempting to use the hard structure of the Ishimura itself as a skeleton. Perhaps the hard iron girders, beams, and wall panels make just as suitable a skeletal matter for the necromorph collective as bone does. One could imagine that if the necromorph organism were to absorb enough animal tissue in the presence of this ship, we might one day see a massive cross between a necromorph and the USG Ishimura, crawling around on some planet or simply floating around in outer space waiting for some foolish astronauts to land in its hungry docking bay mouth.
This is Temple. Screw the engine. I can't restart it by myself, and with all the other shit going on, it's obvious this is sabotage. I'm heading for the bridge, and then I need to find Elizabeth. I gotta get her off this ship. It's not safe.
So, Temple will now be looking for and attempting to rescue a woman named Elizabeth, who is presumably a love interest, which adds even more to the pile of things he and Isaac have in common. The reason I draw your attention to Temple's recordings is because his story is an often overlooked subplot of the game that intrigues me greatly. The game won't let me run on this fleshy stuff. I can only walk. I presume it's because it's too sticky or because it's too slippery. Don't worry, man. We'll get you some help. Somebody get this man some thermite! Stat! Damn, we were too late. Oh well. I should add that the theory I described concerning the nature of the necromorphs is only what one might arrive at given the observations and information we've collected so far. That theory says nothing of this so-called marker, the artifact that was uncovered by the miners on the planet below, and we might have to throw out this theory as future evidence provides us with more clues. In small rooms like this, Isaac reminds me of a Muppet, as we don't see below the waist. I sometimes think that if there were a Muppet video game, it ought to be a third-person, over-the-shoulder one, like this. Now we will be heading toward the engine control access room, where we can witness the kind of power it takes to propel an enormous iron ship like the Ishimura. The game doesn't technically ever state that the Ishimura is made of iron, but I do make that assumption based on 3 important facts. The first is that it looks like it's made of iron. Very simple. The second reason is that we know iron is one of the easier to find metals drifting in outer space. Iron is so common in outer space that scientists classify meteorites primarily based on how much iron they contain. So if you were to build a deep space ship of this size, it would make a lot of sense to build it out of the metals already plentiful in outer space, which are generally iron and then nickel, respectively. The third reason I assume it's iron is because of the artificial gravity technology we see in use in dead space. One of the primary justifications for using lighter metals than iron for spaceship construction is that it takes less energy to propel them. However, if you have electric artificial gravity technology which can project a strong center of gravity in midair, or more accurately, mid-space, from a distance, then you don't have to worry about a ship being too heavy. Think about it. In this game, Isaac uses kinesis, which is basically a handheld artificial gravity center projector, to project a center of gravity near objects, which then fall toward that point. That's how kinesis works. With this, Isaac can lift, move, and launch crates that might otherwise require the strength of 6 men. Now, if we expand that technology to a much larger scale, not only is this ship equipped with its own massive kinesis modules, so strong that they can rip trillions of tons of rock off of a nearby planet, but this technology is most likely necessary to propel the ship forward. But really, it's not propelling the ship. It causes the ship to literally fall forward, toward an artificial center of gravity that the ship projects on its own. With such technology, the heaviness of the metal the ship is made of really doesn't matter, as long as the ship remains in outer space throughout the entirety of its existence, and never has to take off from a planet. I mention this all now because we're in the engine control access room. In this room, it is apparent that the ship's engine is one which uses combustible propellant, perhaps massive plasma jets, rather than electrogravitic projectors. One might wonder, as I did, why would a society which can control gravity and bend space need an old-fashioned combustion engine to stay aloft? Well, there is a good reason. It's because electrogravitic propulsion requires electricity, and in the future it may still be easier to store reactive fuels than it is to store electricity. This engine may not actually propel the ship, but instead turn an electric generator, which in turn powers the artificial gravity propulsion projectors. In other words, this is a giant hybrid car for deep space mining. This is not unheard of, as the most common trains used for transporting materials and resources across continents have been using this method for generations. A lot of people don't realize that the trains they have to sit and wait to pass before they can continue driving are probably being propelled by electric traction motors, which are being powered by diesel-fueled generators, manned by workers who are, just like Jacob Temple and Isaac Clarke, called engineers.
Ignition sequence initiated. Please stand by. Engines firing.
It's working. We're online and functional. Finally, some good news. Get a tram to the bridge, Isaac. I'm gonna take us back into a geostation.
Wait, we're not safe yet. Ship's asteroid defense system is offline.
On the way up, the ship's going to pass through a debris field thrown up from the planet crack. We'll be ripped to pieces unless you restart it.
God damn it. I'll start working on it from here. Isaac, meet me at the bridge. You can do more good here than I can.
And now Isaac is headed toward the bridge, just like where Jacob Temple said he was headed in the last audio log of his we found. We're continuing to trace Temple's steps, even after we leave this area of the ship. Isaac and Temple are like kindred spirits, I think.
Isaac, where are you? It's me, Nicole.
Where am I? Where are you? I'm on the ship, Toots. Just let me know where you are, and I'll be there. Well, that wraps up Chapter 3. Now I have to go join Hammond at the bridge and turn on that asteroid defense system. Because Hammond's too lazy to get off of his ass and go do it himself. Oh well, such is my life. I gotta give 110% so the other guy can get away with 90.